Okay, I will start this meeting of the Community and Social Wellbeing Committee. So Steve, do we have any apologies?
We don't have any apologies, Chair.
Excellent. Any declarations of interest from anyone?
No.
No. Okay. Have we had a chance to have a look at the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of February?
Yep.
People happy with those?
Yeah.
Okay, I will take your silence as acquiescence. So our standing items then. First of all, update on the skate park. Pam, Sarah, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, yes.
You take it, you take it.
Oh yes, I think I better. Pam will just jump in when she needs to. Yes, it's all going swimmingly. What can I say? What can I say? It's going well. It is as it is at the moment. Yep.
The second part of the grant application is Carrie's still
Yeah.
working on.
Yeah, we heard.
Part of it, we've got to wait until tomorrow when Maverick is getting back to her. That's Thursday tomorrow. And after that, we worked on it again this morning, and I think then she might have everything ready to send off part 2.
Yeah.
But we don't know until Maverick do or don't get back to her tomorrow.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, sounds like
I was
progress
about
being made
right. Yeah.
on the grant application.
Do we know how long we'll have to wait to hear for the second stage?
I don't, I'm afraid. Somebody's asked me that already. I don't know.
I thought it was 6 to 8 weeks, wasn't it?
I also thought that.
Yes.
Yes, I asked a long time ago, so it will take me a long time to scroll back in my conversation with Carrie to confirm.
In my head, it was 6 to 8 weeks because I was told by Maverick it was going. They could start building as early as April if we'd known. And I was like, dash, we'll just miss that time frame.
Sarah, why I asked though is because of COVID. The first stage was delayed, wasn't it? And I'm worried.
It was doubled.
They
doubled it from 4 to 8
weeks longer.
So I've found it by some miracle.
Yeah.
It's in normal circumstances, it would be 4 to 6 weeks from the point that we submit. So I think the 6 to 8 weeks is giving a little bit of leeway because of COVID.
Okay.
Are you talking about part 1 or part 2?
Part 2.
Part 2.
Thank you.
Okay. Is everybody happy with that update? Obviously, we just wait on the outcome of the grant application before any further steps are taken. So happy to move on.
I think Lewis Hines gave the clerk some information. The clerk wrote to Lewis Hines asking for the information for Carrie. And I think he said that everybody there, including the legal department, knows that they really do need to get this out as fast as they can. They are aware of that.
Okay, excellent. Right then. So the next item is the update on Underhill. Martin?
Okay, not really, I suppose, a bit like with the skateboard park, not really a lot to update at the current moment in time. All the legal proceedings are going through. So we're just waiting for an update on their legal team, from our legal team. But generally, the terms of reference and the agreement have all been agreed now. So it's just a case of the solicitors and the legal teams working through it. But I think all the major barriers have now been overcome. And we're just waiting to hear officially back from their legal team, particularly at the moment. The only other thing I can say, I don't know if Steve has got any update on that, of where we are with the loan application, but I don't think we have any particular news on that, have we, Steve?
No, we haven't.
No, but okay, we will continue to review that situation, but the position that we were in last time was Paul has got to get, as per usual procedures for these sorts of things, we've got to get 3 quotes from 3 separate providers. It looks like we know which provider we will be going to, which will be the Public Lending Board. But we need to go through that procedure, and then when we have got that in place, we'll obviously be good. So that's where I think we are.
Okay, it's probably worth mentioning, Martin, isn't it, that we've also started the conversation with the joint working group about what our governance arrangements will look like for the sort of mid-term future. Nothing's been decided on that, although I think it's anticipated that it will be something similar to the joint working group, perhaps with a revised membership to include some of the professionals involved now, and also revised frequency, because hopefully we won't need to meet weekly when the project is underway. In terms of the communication routes through Mumbles Community Council, it is still my preference that it is managed through this committee, so that any recommendations to full council are discussed at committee level before being put to full council. Otherwise every little thing will be a special meeting. So I'm anticipating that remain a standing item on the agenda of this committee going forward.
Yeah, I'll just echo in that, as Rebecca so rightly says, that it's just the beginning of conversations at the moment. This has been sort of ongoing for quite some time about what sort of format that would take, based on the advice that we did have from Gareth Kiddy going back some time ago. Something along those lines was suggested. But of course, this is something that we will need to work out, working jointly with Mumbles Community Association and ourselves, exactly what our governance structures is. And I think maybe, I think I have mentioned this before, the joint working group, it might be useful just to seek a little bit of advice from people like One Voice Wales, and maybe look at other projects which I am aware of, which already are going on in in Wales in general, but in South Wales and South West Wales, that may give us some sort of guidelines as to how this governance structure might work in practice.
Okay, thanks, Martin. Yeah, so we'll seek that advice. Hi, Linda. Welcome.
Hi, Linda.
Oh, she was here and now she's coming again.
Yeah, she's coming back.
She's coming back. Okay. I'll move us on then to item 6, which is our other standing item, which is the Landland tennis courts. I don't think there's too much to update on this, unless Steve, I've asked Steve to set up a special meeting of this committee to which we'll invite all of council with the Lawn Tennis Association, just to iron out some of the concerns that I know councillors have got regarding the gate system. So Steve, I don't know whether that meeting's been set up yet, has it?
Just waiting for confirmation from the Welsh Tennis, the LTA, on what date they can make. I think we were planning for the end of the month, wasn't it? Because it's a 5-week month. There's a couple of vacancies on either Monday or Wednesday, I think. So I offered them both dates and I'm waiting for them to confirm. I think it's quite interesting to note what was said at the meeting last night. Swansea Council are convinced that public tennis courts are a thing of the past, and from what we were told by the LTA, that's not the case. So
yeah, so I think the reason we're going to set up that meeting with the LTA as a special meeting of this committee is that we think it's important that all councillors have the opportunity to ask any questions about the proposed system, but that we also need to be in a position where we make a decision and we move forward on this issue. Otherwise we could talk about it for months. So the idea is that the LTA will come, we'll be able to ask any questions that we didn't feel were satisfactorily answered in their last presentation, and then we'll suspend the meeting for that part, and then we will reconvene and this committee will vote on a recommendation to full council about what we do with the gate system. The gate system would help us evaluate use, it's worth saying, but obviously there are concerns around cost, etc., that we can need to iron out. Pam and then Will.
I know that the last meeting was recorded. Before we have that meeting, I wonder if the clerk would be able to make the recording available to us so we could just get things to the top of our minds again, if you don't mind, or make it available to all councillors. Everybody could have a look at that meeting and see if there was something that triggers their thoughts as well as ours.
Yeah,
that possible?
certainly. I'll look that out and do that, of course.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, and then Sarah?
Yeah, I just wondering what are we talking about? Just the two courts, or the 3 courts, or all 4 courts with a gate system?
I suppose that's one of the questions, isn't it?
Yeah, because I'm sure Swansea had let us, put a gate system on the 4th court, for example, if we wanted to pay for it in the interim. I mean, they, as you know, they might be developing it, but until bulldozers turn up, I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem with that. So that way we could, as you say, monitor usage, and that'd be quite a good way of evaluating what goes there in the future, as you said.
Well, the way it was set up, if you recall, on the original plans we had drawn out, was to have a gate on the 3rd court, which would lead through to the 4th court. So that could be done at no extra cost.
Yes. So yeah, I suppose you'd have to chain up one of the gates and just use the one.
Yeah.
You'd have to pay. You'd have to put a gate in the middle of the 2 courts, though. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So there is another cost incurred there that we haven't thought about if you were to do it that way.
Perhaps we need to cost up what the different options are and then take a decision based on that. Sarah, and then I'm coming back to Pam.
Thank you.
2 things. First thing, I'm a little concerned about the cost and whether that will go on to the person trying to use the tennis courts, basketball court, whatever's there. I would rather it be free. It's been paid for once by the taxpayers' money. They shouldn't have to pay again. Secondly, with the gates, will they be all right, suitable for people in wheelchair use, for instance? We have to think of these things now. Yeah.
So I just think it's worth restating that it is entirely possible for us to make a gate system where it is still free.
Good.
Particularly still free for residents. We could actually do differential charging. So if you're a resident, it could be free, and if you're a visitor, we could charge if we wanted to. I don't know about the wheelchair thing, but that'll be a question for the LTA. So I don't want us to necessarily work through all of these questions tonight because we're having a special meeting for it. So I'll come to Pam, and then I think we'll probably move on.
Have we done a consultation with the public on what uses we want to put in with court 3? Because it seems as if we're talking as if we are assuming it's going to be tennis and it's a gated system for tennis. Do we have any? We haven't done a big consultation on this yet, so we need that information with us before we start making a decision about what we're going to put in the courts.
Jack, can I just
that until we've done
back on that, Will? Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lease from Swansea Council that states currently that it has to be and only can be tennis.
Okay. Right. I don't want us to like.
Sorry. Well, that needs a SWAT.
So I don't want us to dwell on this right now, because obviously the lease, that's what the lease currently says. There's nothing to stop us doing a consultation and discovering that there's a different use that the community prefer, and then approaching Swansea Council to look at a change of lease. But let's have the special meeting about this, and we can go into all of these details in much more detail.
Yeah. Can I just say, it is extremely frustrating that some people are so hell bent on getting rid of tennis there, and it seems like just to wind me up. That's all it's genuinely what it seems.
You're talking about me. Tell me that you're talking about
literally not what it feels like all the time. All right.
No,
so
it's not.
It's the tone in the delivery and every single thing every time, and that's all it is.
Well, apologies. It's not meant like that. Honestly, I just want to see a spread of different sports there, not just tennis. That's all. I'm not against tennis. Love tennis.
I just need some information on what would be being advised or asked to do.
Okay.
Rather than assuming that there's a lot of work to be done yet, I think, before we can make that final decision.
Well, you did have 4 years to do it as chair, so you know.
Okay. Right then, I'm going to move us on. There will be a special meeting, hopefully in 2 weeks' time. So Mumbles Gardens, we put this on the agenda because if you remember at the last meeting, it was suggested that we invite the cabinet member to talk to us about the fact that we're not going to be able to have the asset transfer on the bowls green. Obviously then Rob and RFD come in yesterday, sort of events overtook us. I don't know whether people feel that it was discussed in enough detail at yesterday's meeting, or whether there's further action that we want to take, given that we are going down the route of having the consultation on the use of those sites.
Chair, can I just say, because I was instructed to do it, already written to Jeff Bacon, who has replied a month or so ago, saying yes, he was going to arrange it all. So I know there was a letter referred to last night that he was supposedly have written to us yesterday, but that's not arrived. So.
Oh, right, okay. Any comments on this, Will?
Yeah, as far as I understand, it's just the hut, the pensioners' hut, and that top part of the Bowls Green near the sea that we're not being offered. I think we're still being offered the green itself.
I think so.
Right, okay.
Isn't that what you understand, Steve?
Yeah, but the point is a part of the plans to redevelop it and to create a usable facility for both the croquet and for the bowls. That pensioners' hut is useful for changing and toilets and so on. So from their point of view, they see that as vital.
Yeah, I think, and this is why we need to be ahead of the game and obviously do our consultation, as you said, Rebecca, and come up with our own proposal. And then I'm sure life's about compromise. We'll compromise somewhere along the way. But, you know, if we've got something to show them that looks good and the community are behind, then I'm sure we'll have a lot more weight.
Well, that is what Rob was saying yesterday, isn't it? If we go to them with the ideas, they are interested to hear them. Just before I come to you, Pam, can I just ask, the consultation, is that being run through the Joint Enabling Committee? Like, where is that sitting in terms of who's doing it? Steve?
Oh, well, I think through this committee, because it just, that's what it might have started off by JEC, but it fits on this committee, doesn't it? Because that's,
okay, good.
What we do here.
Okay, good. So yeah, we probably need to take ownership of that and drive it forward. Pam?
The issue of toilets, the toilet that is next to the pavilion is disgusting. There's no disabled entrance to it. So are we also being offered the toilet block? And what about finance to completely refit it? Is that part of the deal? I didn't understand that from yesterday at all.
Hold on. Sorry, can I ask for clarification? Which toilet is this? Is this a toilet in Southend Gardens, you mean?
No, the toilet that's next to the Bowls Pavilion.
The Bowls Pavilion
right.
ones, yeah.
We've never gone to look in there.
Well, I inspected it all those years ago when Steve and I and those were trying to try getting it from them. But it's awful, it's disgusting, and it's not disabled friendly. So that's something we've got to think about. Has anybody considered that? I've been out of the loop on this completely. Is that
well, they haven't offered it to us as one of the toilets that they've said that we're taking over. It's not been mentioned.
But isn't it attached to the pavilion?
Well, they obviously don't want to give it over.
It's not a public toilet.
No, and isn't it attached to the old people's hut? I'm not sure, but
not that one. I think there's another one that's attached to the pavilion itself.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Linda. You're on mute, Linda. Sorry, we can't hear you.
With this money that's supposed to be going around and us being asked to do sort of blue sky thinking and everything, I think toilets are vital. So I would think that money for toilets would be something that they should present if they got this money. Can't we use some of that money that's available to councillors to come up with ideas? Can we use that? Because toilets and as many toilets as you can are a good idea. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
So is this something that we probably need to bring Miles in as the city councillor for the area?
Or perhaps I need to go down and have a look and see where the toilets are. Perhaps my memory is not serving me properly.
Yeah, okay.
I'll walk it tomorrow and see what I have a look around.
Can I
just to clarify, I'm desperately searching for the plan of the area they offered us, and so hopefully I'll get that in a moment. But there's three. There's the green. There's the pavilion with whatever toilet that might have. There's the old people's hut, which does have toilets, and there's also a separate toilet I thought, I
Yeah.
think Pam is remembering, which is
They were
around
used
the
as to
back
keep
of that, which is next to where the gardener keeps her
kept.
store, if you remember, Pam.
I think the gardener's equipment was kept in that, but I have a memory of a toilet attached.
Yeah.
I'll go and walk it tomorrow, Stephen. I'll have a look.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
if I can't find it now, I'll circulate it tomorrow, the actual plan of
Okay.
what we were offered 15 months ago and what they're now reneging on.
okay. So I'm losing the plot a little bit on what it is that we are, what is our next step as the community council. So I'll bring Gareth in and then Will, but then I want us to have a clear idea of what we're doing next. Gareth? You're on mute, so I don't know what you're telling me.
Sorry, I just threw my phone on the floor. My temper. No. No, the toilets I think you're referring to is the council depot, Workman's Depot, has got a set of toilets. There's a set of toilets linked to the Old People's Hut, and there might be another toilet attached to the Bowls Pavilion. How far the council have offered us, or how further up that line they've offered. The whole run there is really run down. There's no need thousands of pounds spending on it, regardless. So I think we need to. There we go.
There we go.
I think we need to. They've cut out the pub. They've cut out the. They haven't given us the. If the red is omitted, the red is the workman's hut, the gardener's hut, and toilet.
No, there's something in that little niche beside the toilet. That could be the toilet, the little blue niche next to PC on the left.
Possibly,
That
but
could
it
be
looks
the
like
toilet.
it looks like the workman's part is not part of the deal. That's what it looks like. The actual council gardeners depot isn't part of the deal.
You see, they might want to keep that as the depot for the gardeners and the councillors,
Yeah.
as the gardeners depot for themselves, because that's the only storage they have.
So Steve, can you just confirm, are they still offering us the blue bit? Is that what I understand?
This is what they offered us 15 months ago and said it's definitely going to happen, and they were going to give us a lease for it. And of course, the lease has been waiting all that time, and now they've come back and said we've changed our minds. We can't really offer, it's under review again. I think what they want to do, if you follow the line across, they see where the club is and where the toilets are. There's a potential they could put a building in there. That's what I'm assuming.
I reckon they're going to cut it straight across on that line from the bowling green and take it straight across the back of the pavilion and give us the square rather than the bit.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
I think if you look at the sports pavilion outline, there is a definite
extra bit.
I think that's the toilet.
Okay, right. So I said I'd bring in Will.
Yeah, thanks.
So-
I think one of the things that has cropped up at this meeting, which is quite worrying, is the public obviously thinking that we are doing, and I did as well, thought we were doing a consultation on what's happening with that site. I didn't know it was with this committee. I thought it was somewhere else. So we really need to get our skates on and get a rocket up that, because as we know, the seawall sort of what's the word, community space part of the seawall thing's being done at the moment. So the sooner we can deliver that, the better. So we really need to be doing that yesterday rather than, so I don't know if there's some decision we can make now.
Yeah.
Just to things up there.
I completely agree.
Was Alan leading that? Is that the one when he was talking, the Alan one?
Yes,
I'm going to bring.
Aline's one. That's the one we did this. They started setting the questions out for it. So that must have been the one from PT.
Okay, so Steve.
Yeah, there was a workshop done. That was probably why you were thinking it was initiated by JEC, because it sort of was as part of it. And there was 2 points to it: to start the evaluation process and to train up those doing it in skills. So
right.
If you we had that, and we talked about our the key people we needed to get in contact with, and it was discussed, and Sarah was there.
Yeah, I thought Will was there, weren't you, Will?
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
Pam was meant to be but couldn't make it. So we had quite a big discussion about what we thought we might want there and so on. But Alan said it was because of the COVID situation. It was a little early to go out for consultation because you were limited to at that stage to things like SurveyMonkey. So he suggested just waiting a little while. And I
Yeah.
think have evolved since then, so we
Yeah.
could start doing it now.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
sure.
hang on.
Sorry, go on, yeah, go on.
So I'm just going to suggest that that we try and get the people who were at that workshop back
Yeah.
together to agree next steps, basically. I mean, my experience of the last 5 days has been that actually stuff online is pretty effective at reaching people. So I'm keen, as you so adroitly put it, well, let's get a rocket up it. So I think we can do that. So I think the decision that we can make from this committee is that a sort of separate working group gets together pretty promptly to actually get that live. Does that sound reasonable?
Well,
Yeah.
Alan formulated some questions ready. He might have it already in the bag. It's just ready
Yeah.
to go out.
Exactly.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
But
just one other thought, right? Is this going to incur any other costs? And if so, we need to, put a recommendation through. For example, Steve, we've obviously paid Alain for a certain amount of work. Is he going to be doing more work that we haven't okayed? Can you, as clerk, sign that off? Or if not, do we need to discuss that now? Secondly, is there any sort of, for example, if we did a Survey Monkey, we might want to promote a Facebook post, which might cost £200-300. Secondly, we might want to print out a leaflet advising people on the survey that we might want to drop and distribute. That we've got to do as wide a we've got to obviously do a consultation as best we can in the circumstances. But what we need to think about here, and maybe just bear in mind, because otherwise what's going to happen is we're going to be going back next month. Oh, we need to bring it up that we need money next month, and then after council and da. So we can save ourselves a month by thinking about that now.
Yeah, could just so you know, Will, it was £800 was set aside for the exercise, so there is some money there. If the subgroup meets early next week, that's plenty of time to put a recommendation into full council. If the committee are happy, it goes that route.
Yeah.
Okay, but does that £800 include the work that Alain's already done?
Yeah.
And if
Yes, it was 800 for the whole project.
Yeah.
He's not
Oh,
particularly
right.
expensive, is he? He's
yeah, but what my point is all the other stuff that would go with it. You can sign that off as clerk, could you, for example? Like, say,
what I'm suggesting, Will, is if the group, as Rebecca suggests, meets early next week,
right,
we can talk about our costs then, and if this committee is happy, the subcommittee can make a recommendation to full council that the budget for this be increased to whatever you need.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
Makes sense.
And I think it would be really helpful if Alain can. Do we think it's helpful that Alain is at that meeting early next week?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, good. I'm just conscious that my brain isn't functioning as it usually does. So
Welcome to motherhood.
So the action is that Steve is going to set up a meeting with definitely Sarah and Will and Pam, and I would like to be there now that I'm back in the loop. And
Martin.
Alain and Martin, you were, and Martin. And honestly, I think anyone who wants to be there. But if those people who were at the original can definitely be there, because we need some continuity from what was already discussed, otherwise we're starting again.
Yeah, I know Carrie will be there.
And Carrie, yeah. Okay, happy?
Well, would Alain call that meeting? He called the last one.
Yeah, I think I have no objection to anyone being there, as you say, but I think Alain is obviously more experienced than us in this, and he wanted, didn't he, Martin, a smaller group.
A smaller group, yeah.
Nothing to do with me, but that's what he
said, yeah. Anyway, but I think as long as we get the ball rolling, we can discuss this with Alain and then discuss how we can take this forward.
Yeah. Right. So the meeting early next week is to make a plan that we can implement.
Yes.
And drive forward. Okay, fab. Right, I'm going to move us on then to the next agenda point, which is the Crazy Golf. So Claire has provided a short report of a meeting that she had with Jamie Rubridge about the Crazy Golf. Steve, did you want to speak to it at all?
There's an offer, isn't there, of a meeting? I suppose that's what you need to decide tonight, whether you want to go take the offer up or not, how people feel.
Yeah, so my reading of this is that Swansea Council's vision for the site, I suppose, is to keep it pretty much as it is, and that they paint it regularly. And if we had any grander vision for the site, then it would be worth having a conversation with them. I'll take thoughts before saying my own. Pam?
That site is a tremendous money spinner. So if we put money into it, we want money out of it.
Yeah. Anyone else? Will?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with Pam. If we put money in, we want money out. So, for example, if we are prepared to invest, say, 20,000 in, making it a much better facility, I think we get our money back fairly quickly, because I think a lot more people it would be a genuine tourist attraction, and I think people would be on board. It's prudent that we'd get our money back. And what we could, I mean, if it was a private sector thing, what I'd say to Swansea Council is, right, how much did it make last year? It made 10 grand, for argument's sake. Right, for every penny it makes over 10 grand, we get that money back until our loan is paid back. That sort of deal. That way, no one loses out.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
So my feeling on this is that I think it's very worthwhile thinking about, but does it need to be for now? We have a lot on our plate at the moment, and we're in danger of sort of taking a step backwards in terms of that reverting to where we try and do lots and nothing actually gets done. So my feeling on the matter is put a pin in it, and we're supposed to be getting to a point where we're planning for budgets a year, 2, 3 years ahead, that we start thinking about it for the next financial year. Sarah?
Only concern is it time sensitive? If we don't show our interest now, are we going to be stuck with them saying somewhere down the line, oh, look, you had your moment, you won't get it back?
We don't know yet.
Just coming in on that point, I think the point that Rebecca's making there, she's not sort of saying we always saying we put a pin in it. We say, yeah, look, we are interested, but we've got enough on our plate at the moment. We've got a lot of plans that we need to work on. Just the stuff that we're doing with the bowling green and all that. I really think that will be enough to be going on with skate park, Underhill, Ostream Centre. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca, right? But I think that's what you're saying, isn't it? Really,
yeah.
We say to them, look, yeah, we are interested, but we got other things on at the moment, and we'll come back to you when we've got a bit of time. But we will put it into our plans for the years coming forward.
Exactly, that's what I'm proposing. Pam?
Have we had any costings? Have we had any estimates of what it would cost? Have we got any ideas on that yet?
Well, we haven't got a clear idea of what we want to do with the site yet. So no is the short answer.
I thought Maddie had contacted a firm that did it somewhere else, or am I remembering wrongly?
Can I just give some background to this, Chair? It just might be helpful.
Yeah.
As Pam knows, one of our former councillors was very keen to develop this, and she was trying, when the Swansea Council put this up for sale effectively a few years ago and didn't get any takers. But at the time we were trying to, Tracy Duffy was trying to get people who were doing sites, I think at Porthcawl, and could have been Barry Island, where they'd spent quite a lot of money updating it and they were very popular. She's trying to encourage them to come down. And we were talking about Glenelg tourism, and I mentioned that. So the meeting that Claire had was an exploratory meeting just to see what the current situation is. So that's why there's no firm plans. It was just literally an exploratory meeting to see how the land lay.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. So I guess I'm proposing that we respond to say we're very much interested, but we'll need to look at it for the 2022-23 budget.
Yeah.
Are you happy for Claire to investigate if she wants to, because she's sort of her roles evolved to include tourism, and you've increased her hours to reflect that. If she feels that you're happy for her to pursue it, if she wants to, and get a little bit more information, and at this stage, or you think it's too early even for that?
I'm going to think about it and bring in Linda.
Yeah, I'm confused here because, I mean, we've had this big sort of meeting about how the councillors are going to be involved with big spend and think big and do something for the area to cover, you know, well-being and sport and jobs and economy. And I've got a 12-point plan for males that I'm thinking, you know, I'm talking to people as I go out with the dog and asking what they think would, you know, bring all this sort of thing to the area. And I keep wondering why in Mumbles you're thinking about this, which I think is a wonderful scheme to involve, you know, to have people using facilities and getting fitter, and children, you know, activities, because it's very difficult, expensive to take families out. Why are we not drawing on that? You know, have you had that talk with the council about all this extra money, this 20 million that's coming to Swansea? You know, I mean,
it's for Miles, Linda, isn't it? Miles, I know
is.
Miles has come up with a plan. I don't know the details of it.
You know, some of these things, I would say now is the time to do anything like this that you want. You know, not hang back with this sort of thing.
It is city council money, so I agree that we should be levering as much of that money into Mumbles as we can, but we do need Miles on board to do that. And my suggestion is that if it's a case of MCC put money in, now is not the time. If there is money available from CCS and we can work with Miles to lever that in, then I'm happy.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
And if Claire does her research, then we'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
I
want you to press, because I mean, if anybody has got anything that they think that me in males should be, you know, I'm calling for ideas. I've got, as I say, I've got a 12-point plan myself, but if anybody wants anything else in the males area, now is the time to approach me. Okay, thank you.
Okay. In terms of your question about Claire pursuing it, I'm happy for her to explore what might be possible, but I just want us to be really clear that if it's about MCC money, you know, it's not going to be this financial year coming up, it's going to be after that.
The original concept, so I probably didn't make it explicit. The original concept was that we wouldn't be paying any money. We were just trying to encourage an a business from a business person who'd done a similar thing elsewhere to come to Mumbles and do the same thing. That was okay. The concept.
It really depends how much of a time it's going to take, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, if Miles then wants to pursue it, he'll have all the figures to hand that we can just hand it to him and from Claire, and he will know exactly where he is then.
So I think what we're saying is that we don't necessarily want Claire to prioritise this.
No.
If she has additional time that she can put into it, great. And the first port of call for any money appears to be Miles. And then if it doesn't, you know, if in the next year nothing happens because it just doesn't get to anything, then we can consider it when we're setting next year's budget.
Well, not necessarily Miles's money, but as Linda said, Miles might apply to county for that money.
That's what I mean.
Not necessarily Miles's money.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay as a plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Right, back to my agenda. Okay, so the West Cross Green play equipment. So you'll see there's a report from the online survey that's gone out on OneDrive. Got a really positive response to the survey. Almost 180 responses and over 70% in favour of the zip wire, which is the idea that's currently being kind of drawn up at city and county level, because we're only paying 20,000 towards a scheme that's 56,000 in total. I am coming to you, Sarah. I've seen you.
Thank you.
The the reason I put it on the agenda for today is that officers met with the ward members, so Mark and Des, 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and at that point appeared to be saying that they needed to quite urgently get plans firmed up so that it could be written into their budget. I mean, Linda and Will probably know more about this than I do, but there's a deadline of the 31st of March for some of these plans to be kind of finalised. And obviously we need to put a recommendation to full council to release the budget of up to 20,000 that was agreed in the budget for the next financial year. However, what we don't have at the moment is the plan, like the actual, this is exactly what's going to go on that site. So given that it is 3.5 weeks between this meeting and the next full council, what I was going to propose, given that we've had such a positive response on the online survey, I think we've got a mandate to say, yes, we're going along the right track here. So we make a recommendation to full council that we release up to 20,000 pending the detailed plans coming from City and County before full council on the 13th of April.
Sounds good.
So Sarah, and then Pam, and then Linda.
Right. Firstly, could you possibly send me, because I haven't got access to OneDrive, could you possibly send me the results? Because I know there was a few I wanted to look at particularly. I wanted to, if there was any negative ones. I think there was only one, but anyway, I wanted to check. And secondly, yes, it's great. We knew the zip wire was a big hit from word of mouth, but it's good that they filled in the stuff. It's got to be in by, you said we have to have the plans and everything done by the 31st of March?
Yes, yeah, but City and County are doing the majority of the work on that.
Okay.
I just said that we would support with doing a bit of consultation, just basically to highlight any particular concerns that people have got. So like there was a couple of comments about, will this be a bit of an eyesore? And actually no, the way that City and County are planning it, it won't really affect, there'll be green space under it and everything, so we can address those issues as they come up.
Yeah, they have to be aware that there are pipes and stuff underneath that green.
They know all of that.
Well, we say that, but I think it's it's important. Yes, Pam's laughing, but it is important to actually reiterate that, because sometimes their left hand doesn't know what their right hand's doing.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I said Pam, and then did Linda want to come in?
My question was to the clerk. Do we need to go with a recommendation to full council to release the money, or can we just, or have we already dealt with that so we can release the money when we're ready? Does it have to go to full council? I'm just asking the clerk.
Yeah, just to explain, when you had the budget meeting, there were certain things that Paul asked to be pre-approved. So those payments don't need to go, but everything else needs to go to full council.
So this wasn't pre-approved. Thanks, Steve.
Linda?
Yeah. What money is the Mumbles Community Council paying towards this? Because I've paid for everything in Nails without asking Mumbles Community Council to chip in. I've paid my bit, and then the City Council has paid in the rest. So what is it that the Community Council are paying in?
So we've agreed to supplement the £36,000 available from City with a £20,000 contribution from Community Council. That was agreed in the budget in January.
Right. It's just that I'm missing out here, because I've been scraping together some money so that I could have the Lido. I had to find money to match up with the Lido. I didn't realise that I could come to the Community Council and ask for something there. So that's my fault. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, definitely. We helped with Underhill Park. We paid up quite that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should be able to, Linda. You really should be able to.
Okay, so Will, and then
just a quick one. I totally agree with what Sarah said there about the foundations, because I couldn't believe how deep they put the foundations for Underhill for that climbing net. It's literally about 3 meters deep. It's unbelievable how deep the foundations for those things. And definitely the right hand does not know what the left hand is doing. So yeah, maybe just turn up on day one and say, by the way, here's a plan. There's a big
The gas pipe is down to that.
yeah, exactly. Secondly, the only thing that worries me about that site, the play area there, is obviously it is quite close to a road, and a lot of I think it's Jackie Reese Thomas. She was trying to get us to not put a fence around Underhill, right? So it's not a. I'm not saying it's like a has to be a fence, but for me as a parent, I don't relax if you're in a play area where there's a road nearish and there's no fence. So I'm just wondering if you're planning on putting the fence in.
Yeah, so that was raised with officers, and the issue with the fence that they raised is the cost of it. They said it would take up most of the 56,000 to put a fence around it. And yeah, Jackie Reese Thomas is very pro not enclosing spaces because it creates the kind of, there's no escape if there's any kind of bullying or anything like that going on. There is a fence around the pavement. So between the site and the road, there is a fence. It's not in the best condition, but it exists. And I think Sarah's probably going to come in with her fabulous idea of potentially doing an organic fence. Over to you, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm like you. Well, I don't relax when you've got a park and you've got kids running around, even with a ball. You really need to have them. You need to have some sort of enclosure. The other thing is dog poo. We know it happens. Dogs just wander onto the play surface. They would in Underhill. We need something around it. And I understand the expense. It's a big space. I thought we could have bee-friendly perennial shrubs going around there. We could be naughty and have something like berberis, which is a little bit spiky. So that might be a good, but it's good for pollutants as well, because it's close to the road. It absorbs some of the pollutants. And it looks attractive, so we can sell it to the people around there as it's a nice little garden around. It's the same idea I suggested for if we're lucky enough to get the tennis court in Mumbles. A nice space around the edge that looks good.
I like the idea. The reality, I think, is that there'll be a gap in the hedge where teenagers, anyone, just has a shortcut, and therefore it, defeats the object straight away. That's just my, negative feedback. But I think although a fence is hugely expensive, because we looked at putting one, we looked at pricing one up, the friends group, when we did Underhill, and it was about 6,000-7,000 just for a roll top fence. And obviously the whole idea was that the zip wire was actually outside. I don't know if you've ever considered putting the zip wire outside, because zip wire is usually older kids or parents with small kids need to help them up anyway, so it's almost like a separate thing. So I personally think you need a fence. I just leave it at that, really. But it's
okay. What I'm gonna say is we are somewhat beholden to City and County for the plan that they provide. I understand that they should hopefully provide that with enough time for people to comment on it, otherwise it sort of defeats the purpose of them doing it. So I suggest we wait and see what we get. So Steve, could we make, if people are happy, I'm going to suggest that we make the recommendation to full council to release up to 20,000, because the other thing I sort of would point out to Mark and Des is that if the plan only costs 52,000, I would like it to be our 4,000 that is saved, please, so that we can use it for something else. So hedge. That's like the hedge, exactly. So if we could make the recommendation for up to 20,000 pending the plans, and then Steve, perhaps we could ask you to sort of officially write to Mark and Des to ask them to make the plan available to us as soon as it is available to them, so that we can all consider it and provide feedback.
Jack, that seems perfectly reasonable. But the question that strikes me is, why do we need to get them the money so quickly? Is it because they're so cash strapped that the 20,000 will affect them, or I know they need to make their decision because they have to make their decision quickly because on the spending, but we don't have to do it in a rushed manner. So we could do it, they can just put an invoice in the usual manner when the scheme's done, or whatever. I'm just not quite sure what the rush is. There may be a good reason, but I just can't see what it is.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I just had to go on, Gareth.
I just think maybe they just want the commitment. They don't actually
That's
want the money.
exactly what I was going to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
I think it is that. So they don't find themselves in a situation where they've started a scheme that's more money than they've got, and then we back out.
The other thing is they're rushing it through, and we're not. Are we partners in this? Because this committee hasn't seen any drawings at all yet, has it?
No, I don't think anyone's seen any drawings yet, to be fair. Will?
Yeah, I'm happy with your proposal, Rebecca, and I think, you know, they're not going to come up with a crap scheme. You know, they've done lots of schemes before, and they usually put it out to tender, and you know that you get a couple of things and you can feed in and edit them. The only thing we were talking about it earlier, the only thing I think which I've always been against this proposal, because I always thought that it would cost too much money to do, but now obviously there's more money. I think it is a reasonable place to put a play area, right? But with this money, as Linda was talking about earlier, which is available to city councillors, I do think it's worth making this scheme better, and you know, fencing, road crossing, you know, maybe even more equipment, that sort of thing. It might be a really good opportunity for Mark and Des to make that scheme even better than it is currently planned. So it might be worth having that conversation with them quickly. But yeah, happy to go ahead with what you've originally planned.
Okay. So can I just take a vote on the recommendation? So the recommendation is to release up to 20,000 pending the detailed plans being available. All those in favour? Okay, thank you. And then in terms of the information that we need from Mark and Des, so Steve, if we could ask you to write requesting the plans as soon as they are available, and also saying that we would support, should COVID money make it possible, those things that Will just listed: fencing, additional equipment, and a crossing point.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem at all, Chair.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to move on to item 10. Really contentious, this, a huge amount of money. So there's a grant request for £150 towards a book exchange scheme. Martin, sorry, do you want to just briefly speak to this?
I could just speak to this. This came in really late last week, as Lady Victoria runs a local book club. I'm sure you've seen that these sort of book exchange schemes are quite popular in various sorts of places now. You see them popping up in a lot of places. There's one just opposite the Beaufort pub on the bottom of Glen Road in the old telephone box, if anybody's familiar with it. But this lady approached me, as I said last Friday, to be honest, with this idea for this scheme, which personally I thought was a good idea, about putting it outside the Ostream Centre under that covered area that we've got there. Again, I thought it was a really good suggestion of an area, because I'm sure some of you have seen it, particularly at the moment. Sandwiches or what have you. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
People are getting coffees and the like, and they're going to sit there. So all she's asking for is some support for the scheme, and she's quite happy to run it herself as part of the book club. Only problem is I asked her to fill in the form. I don't know if you've had a look at the form. She's filled it in as if I'm applying and as Mumbles Community Council applying. I have talked to her today about this, and she's quite happy to change this. Also, one of the things that's been brought up, and she did discuss this with me when I met her, but she didn't put it in the application, but I've asked her to put an annex with it, about making the scheme COVID compliant. Fair play to her. When I met her, she supplied me with all this literature, to be honest, that she'd already accessed herself, to show how she could make the scheme COVID compliant, and about the risk factors involved. And how you mitigate the risk factors. So my feeling is just generally in relation to this, in theory, as a scheme, I think it's something it'd be good. It's not a lot of money. It's just a one-off, really. She's quite happy to run it herself. So I would just recommend it to council that we support it, and I can go back to her, make sure that we put the scheme in more comprehensively, cover the mitigating things with making it COVID compliant, and then take it from there. So
Sounds lovely.
Okay. Well,
Thanks. Yeah, I've been trying to get one in Newton, one of those little boxes on a stick, you know, and we tried to put one on Picket Mead, and the council said they didn't want it because they thought it encouraged fly tipping and antisocial behaviour. And then we tried to put one outside Newton Village Hall, and the hall weren't keen there, unfortunately. So it sort of fizzled there, unfortunately, because the council aren't very supportive. So if it's on in the off stream, as you said, which is our land, we can obviously do it there. The only thing I'd say is try and put it in a place where it's fairly visible, so people are driving past, you know, and there won't be any, you know, naughty people doing naughty things to the books, and in a well lit place, you know. And the COVID thing's pretty easy to overcome by just you know, hand squidger next to it, isn't it?
yeah.
okay. I'm going to move this to a vote because I don't think it's hugely contentious. So all those in favour of recommending that we contribute £150 towards the book exchange scheme.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Just before we move on from grant requests, I've been made aware that we have had a grant request that came in just after we'd set the agenda, from the community kitchen, which ran a pop-up in West Cross Community Centre 2 or 3 weeks ago. I haven't seen the application, but what I was going to ask Steve is, if we do have this special meeting with the LTA at the end of March, could we just squeeze it in at the end of the agenda, because they only just missed us, didn't they? And it'd be a shame if they have to wait another, what is essentially 2 months to get to full council decision.
Yep, sure, no problem.
Okay, great. So the last few things then, meeting with the Friends of Oystermouth Castle. So Steve and I attended a meeting with Erica, who works at the council, and Marie, who is who represented the Friends of Oystermouth Castle. There is a report available on OneDrive. There isn't really any decision making for us to make at this stage, because they've gone away to do a little bit of homework on the schemes that they would be proposing. So it's just for your information, really, to let you know that we're keeping that conversation open. They've got a feasibility study that will be running over the next 6 months, at looking at replacing the tent, which is the idea that we discussed when we were talking about last year's budget, or sorry, the last budget decision. So this year's budget coming up, and the report from that feasibility study will inform what funding we would need to provide in order to make that a viable partnership. So we'll need to wait on that information, really. Linda, did you want to come in there? You're on mute.
You did.
I keep thinking about this, you know, this £150 that we get as a councillor. Can I ask, because I'm thinking of, I'm asking you about this because I would like to donate it to the food bank, because I've always refused my money, not needing it, but our church is really vitally trying to get, you know, masses of money for the food bank and the shared plate and all that. And I would just like to give that money, because I thought if I refuse to take that money, fair enough, it's just, you know, it's not gone. But if I accept it and then send it down there, I think it's a good idea. But what I want to know is, how do we go about that? Is that something that, you know, is going to arrive as a check or what? Because I wanted to give it food, the food bank. You know, the money that we.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now, Linda. Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but what I would recommend is having a conversation with Paul, because if you accept it and then pass it on, there may well be tax implications. Whereas if it goes direct from MCC, there might be a way of sidestepping.
I have sent him an email, but he did say that he couldn't sort of send it, because that's what I was hoping for, that it was going to go direct from MCC. But he said, I think that it had to go through me for the tax.
Okay.
Fair enough. But I mean, the thing is, the question I'm asking is, when do we get that? Do we get it, or do I collect it, or what? Or does it come as a check?
Steve?
Paul Paul will ask you to have completed a form, and once you've done that, it'll be making a payment into your bank account.
Oh, right, I haven't got the form yet, you just answered the question. So if I need to get a form and give a bank account details, and then it can go into my bank and then it can go to the food bank.
Talked about,
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Excellent. Will?
Thank you. With your meeting at the castle, I messaged you before about the idea of putting sealed off entrances so that you could section off the castle to do different events in different spaces and not worry about health and safety in different areas of the castle at the same time. Did they like or think about it, or have they thought about that before? Or
No, so when I asked the question, you know, what would it take for there to be more hire, basically, and for more events to be in there? And actually the response we got was that they're pretty happy with the level of hire that they have at the moment, and that their major constraint is actually the lack of toilets. So it's not actually a health and safety issue. It's just that they, in order to have, you know, more events, that they are mostly constrained by the lack of facilities. Would you say that's fair, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's interesting.
okay, I mean, I think as a community, it can be used more as well, can't it? You know, so maybe there is maybe it's a conversation worth having. You know, maybe there's what I'm trying to say is maybe there's events that they haven't thought about that they don't know that they never thought that they could facilitate, for example, a banquet, you know, in one hall, in one room, when everything else is sealed off, and they might think, oh, we can't do that because people could wander around the castle and they're then at risk of falling off the, you know, this, that and the other thing.
Yeah, they did have a wider variety of events that had happened there than I had realised, and they didn't seem too worried about the idea of people wandering around the castle, to be honest. What I would say is the dialogue is now very much open, so there was some relevant things from environmental committee as well because of the work that's being done on the grounds, and Maria is joining the steering group of the Smugs project, for example. So I think we're building that relationship, and we can, you know, where we've got ideas of events, perhaps it would be easier if we could go to them with a specific idea and say, you know, could we do this? And if they've come up with like problems, then
But you want to walk, eh?
Yeah, just
I don't think Gareth will talk to us.
Sorry.
Sarah, it was partly their capacity. They didn't have any more capacity to do additional events, did they? So I'm underlining what you said. If we went to them and said, why don't we do this? Or Claire went to them with a project, I'm sure they'd be favourable, wouldn't they?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so, you know, we'll just keep that dialogue open. So budget
sorry, Chair, just one other thing. I don't know whether you got it, because we haven't discussed it since we met, but got the terrible impression that things are very slow in that world. I mean, they're talking about having a new gate, and they said it may take up to 10 months before any design they have for a gate is approved, didn't they? Yeah. So there's, we're talking about funding way ahead, really, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think it's probably worth just making councillors aware of that in terms of the approach as well. So, you know, I'm sort of sitting there saying, right, I want to know what ideas I can firm up in 6 months so that you're in next year's budget. And there I felt we had to chivvy a bit. Did you, Steve?
Yeah.
But you know, we'll keep chivvying. That's the beauty of partnership. We're the speed and they're the process.
I did get the feeling though, when we spoke to them a few years back, that they were very, very needy and needing to work with us and wanting help as well, and the financial assistance. So it's worth carrying on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 items left before dinner time. So budget monitoring report only went into OneDrive today. I wanted to just check, Steve, in terms of last time we discussed that if there was money left in our small grants pot that we would want to ring fence it to add to next year's pot. I'm assuming Paul will be in touch to say, let me know what you want to ring fence.
Yeah, that was a part of the minutes last time, wasn't it? That the RFO be notified, so he's aware of that.
Great. Okay, any other questions about our budget monitoring?
No.
It is, as always, looks like lots of money, but it's just because we've got big projects waiting for the money to go out. Okay, any items for social media or the website? I've got one, which is for you, Will, which is that we said ages ago that we were going to put some stuff on social media about the naming of the tennis courts, and we wanted to get people's ideas about who should be on there, what information should be on there, etc. And I don't think we ever quite bottomed out exactly what we wanted to put up, and as a result it's not gone up. So is that something that you're able to finalize with Claire?
Yeah, I can do. I think Steve's suggestion, the courts, after we agreed to do that, I did know, but I'd forgotten as well, that all the courts were named after Bruce Barter, who was the guy at Swansea Council officer who put a lot of effort into the courts, and they're all named after him. So what we need to do is keep that, because obviously, it's not for us to just go and, pull the rug under something like that. So I think the collective of the courts need to be called the Bruce Barter Langland courts, but the individual courts then can be named. And I think
the other thing we said, Will, sorry, just to come in there, is that we would put up an information board. So even if we didn't name the courts after everyone that we thought was influential, there was information. I think Linda had submitted information about somebody that could go on that board.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure Claire can put something like that together, because as you say, there's a couple of famous people who've
women,
and we could do with a woman.
Yeah, of course. All for equal opportunities. Anyway,
there's a lady called Faye who played on the courts every day until she was nearly 90, I think, and Faye did a lot to keep it up. I forget what her name is. She has only recently stopped playing tennis there, but not famous people, but also local people who people will recognize as those who have always kept the courts going.
Well, my brother won a set off Andy Murray on court 4, and he'll be very upset if that court gets knocked down. I tell you.
So this is exactly what I want, but on a bigger scale. I want the whole community having this conversation. Yes. Who do we need to recognise at those courts? Linda?
Yeah. Just trying to think.
I'll do something, yeah.
Yeah, the lady who ran the competitions, I can't remember her name. Remember, she was quite famous. She was perhaps Will know. There was a lady who used to sort of get all the competitions going, because I used to sit on the centre court, as we used to call it, as a teenager, looking at all the boys who were taking part. So, but I can't remember the girl, but the lady who ran, who sort of, took all the money and did all the competitions. So she should be mentioned as well.
Yeah, I can't remember her name. My mum will know her name. I can't remember her name. I know exactly what she looked like, though. I can picture her in my head.
Right. I want all of this information gathered. We want it on a board. We want it up. We want it a line drawn under it so that we can stop talking about the board. Okay. Anything else for social media or website?
No.
Great. In that case, I will call this meeting to a close. Thank you very much, everybody. I will see you all very soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.